So how does a company go from an online bookstore to, well, a trillion-dollar force of nature? That's what we're digging into today, using Brad Stone's incredible book, Amazon Unbound, as our guide. We're going to uncover the playbook, the real playbook behind that insane ambition. And trust me, it's about way more than just size. This is a blueprint for total domination.
And right from the get-go, the book presents this incredible paradox. It's like on one hand, you have this story of unbelievable business success, right? The kind of innovation that literally changes the world. But then, on the other hand, it's also a serious cautionary tale, a warning, really, about what can happen when a company gets that big and its power goes almost completely unchecked.
So that's the big question we're tackling. What is the playbook behind the world's most ambitious and, let's be honest, most controversial company? We're going to unpack it all. The strategies, the mindset, and yeah, the consequences of that relentless drive to just invent and dominate everything.
All right, let's start with the engine of growth. What were the actual nitty-gritty strategies that fueled this meteoric rise? Because it's so much more than just being good at selling stuff online. This is about a deeply ingrained philosophy, something that's baked into the company's DNA.
And according to the book, it really comes down to 3 core pillars. And look, these aren't just some fluffy buzzwords they stick on a poster in the break room. No way. These are the actual operating instructions for everyone at Amazon, from Jeff Bezos on down. So let's jump into that first one.
Okay, customer obsession. Here's what makes this so incredibly powerful. They treat it like a long-term weapon. Amazon is famous for being willing to just throw short-term profits out the window. Why? Because they believe that earning and keeping your trust is the single most valuable asset they could ever have. Everything, and I mean everything, is built right on top of that foundation.
Next up, think big and scale fast. This is basically how they turn innovation into a system, a process. Just think about Alexa for a second. That was a huge, crazy, bold bet, right? But they didn't just go for it. They tested it, they learned from it, they watched the metrics like a hawk, and the second it proved it was working, bam, they scaled it with unbelievable speed. It's this ruthless cycle. Test, learn, measure, and then, if it's a winner, you go all in. No hesitation.
And this might be the secret sauce, the cultural glue holding it all together, the day one mindset. This is that famous principle from Bezos himself. The idea is that you have to always act with the hunger and the speed of a startup. You have to constantly fight against becoming slow and complacent, which is what happens to big companies. That's day 2. In Bezos' world, it is always day 1.
But there's a flip side. That relentless day 1 drive, it has a dark side. Of course it does. As Amazon exploded into this behemoth, its power started to create some massive problems, huge controversies. And this is exactly where the story pivots from being a how-to business guide into that much darker cautionary tale.
You can see that duality, that two-sided coin, perfectly right here. On one side, you've got these incredible, world-changing innovations we all use. Alexa, Prime Video, their cloud computing. Wow. But on the other side, you see the consequences of that same relentless aggression. We're talking intense government scrutiny, really tough questions about their labor practices, and an internal culture that's been called, well, pretty cutthroat.
It's actually a pretty simple formula when you think about it. As the company scaled up, so did its problems. The bigger Amazon got, the more regulators started knocking on the door with some really tough questions. The more it wove itself into the fabric of our daily lives, the heavier its ethical responsibility became, and of course, the more people it employed, the bigger its human impact, for both good and bad.
And this really gets us to the core warning of the book. You just can't keep using a scrappy startup playbook when you've become one of the most powerful organizations on the entire planet. It just doesn't work. The author Stone basically argues that this kind of unchecked growth forces a company to face a completely new set of rules, a new set of responsibilities.
So, what's the takeaway here? What are we supposed to do with all this information? How do you take the lessons from that incredible growth engine and balance them with the serious warnings about the price of all that power? Well, that brings us to the final, actionable insights.
So here it is, what we can call the Unbound playbook, the key takeaways. First, yes, absolutely, you have to maintain that obsession with customer trust. That's your most valuable asset. But, and this is a big but, you've got to balance that think big innovation with real ethical responsibility. It shows us that relentless execution can't come at the expense of your people. And finally, it teaches us that once you hit that level of success, a massive scale, the rules of the game completely change. And in the end, it really leaves us with a pretty profound question to think about in our own work, our own ambitions. That day one startup thinking is an unbelievably powerful tool for getting things done, for innovating. But at what point does a leader or a whole company have to step back and admit, okay, it's day two now? When do you have to embrace the huge responsibilities that come with actually winning? That's the core challenge, not just for Amazon, but for any ambitious person or project out there.